Revealed, Dinah's miraculous journey. Discover Jacob's daughter's incredible redemption and divine purpose. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, daughter of Jacob and Leah, Dinah journeyed forth from her father's dwelling in the hills of Canaan. The vibrant city of Shechem lay before her, a bustling hub where traders of diverse tribes engaged in lively bargaining, their voices intertwining like the threads of her father's cloak. The sun's golden rays danced upon the marketplace, brightening the faces of those who gathered to partake in fruit and garment, laughter mingling with the scents of spices and bread. Yet amid the joyous celebration, the air buzzed with an undercurrent of tension, forged through years of cultural discord. Dinah, radiant with youthful innocence and dreams yet unfurling, ventured into the heart of the festivity. The sound of a lyre wafted through the air, pulling her closer to its source. She marveled at the delicate craftsmanship of the wares surrounding her, her laughter ringing like chimes amongst the merchants. But in a heartbeat, her laughter was transformed into silence, swallowed whole by a quick shadow cast upon her day. An unfathomable act defiled her spirit, a moment that thrust her life into the abyss of chaos. As news of her sorrowful plight surged forth to her family with the swiftness of a wildfire. Dinah's brothers, Simeon and Levi, upon the receipt of heart-wrenching news, were overcome by righteous fury, their hearts ignited with the burning embers of vengeance. Caught in the tempest of familial loyalty and personal tragedy, Dinah felt her identity crumble beneath the weight of shame and betrayal. The warmth of her family's love felt distant, obscured by the dark clouds of her brother's wrath. Amidst this turmoil, Dinah sought refuge at the well, frequented by women who bore the burden of their own trials. There she encountered powerful allies. These women, weathered by adversity, spoke of resilience and uncovering strength amidst despair. Each story whispered under the canopy of starlit skies revealed a common thread, a God who sees and hears the cries of the oppressed. As time unfurled its sands, Dinah garnered a flicker of faith, a tender realization that neither her past nor her present could dictate her destiny. She recalled the stories cloaked in the legacy of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, men who traversed the dark valleys but were led ultimately by a God who promised restoration. In those narratives, her spirit found solace. Yet as her brothers devised a plan to claim justice with the swiftness of the vengeful, Dinah stood upon the precipice of her new reality. The allure of vengeance, intertwined with her yearning for reconciliation, dangled temptingly before her. A perilous path twisted by the expectations of her lineage and culture, leaving a resounding question. Could she rise above the shadows to embrace the covenant promise bestowed upon her? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's Word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's Word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the rhythm of vengeance stirred and escalated around her, Dinah pondered deeply upon her calling, a call not bound by fear, but bearing the imprint of a greater purpose. She longed for a path steeped in faith, where her identity, rooted in God's promise, could bloom anew. The weight of her family's decisions loomed heavy, yet amid uncertainty, a whisper of hope blossomed. She knew that though the chaos reigned, the hand of God remained constant, guiding her steps toward the light, even in the deepest shadows. Thus, the journey of Dinah, ever entwined with pain, courage, and the quest for identity, began to unfold, a tapestry of divine grace echoing through the ages, inviting generations to seek restoration amid their own storms. What path would she choose, and how would her faith guide her amidst the thunder of revenge? As the sun dipped low beneath the horizon, painting the skies with deep hues of crimson and violet, Dinah retreated to the quiet corners of her heart, where the turmoil of her recent trials echoed like distant thunder. She watched the sun's descent, and within her stirred a tempest, a battle between the vengeance her brothers so fervently desired and the still small voice that beckoned her towards reconciliation. In the solitude of the night, Dinah sat beside the well, her weary heart teetering between despair and hope. The women had gone home, leaving her to the silence that cocooned her, an eerie calm, the kind that offers the promise of clarity. "Lord," she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf caught in the wind, "show me the way that I should walk." The stars began to glimmer above, each one a reminder of God's promises to guide His children through darkness. Suddenly, Dinah remembered the stories her mother had shared, the tales of her forefathers' faith in God's providence. Abraham's unwavering trust as he left his homeland for the unknown, and Jacob's struggle at Peniel, wrestling with the angel of the Lord until the dawn broke. Those stories embodied hope, and in her fragile state, she clung to this truth. Her lineage was not defined by her pain, but by the promises of God. Just then a gust of wind stirred the leaves, awakening the night, and within that rustle, Dinah felt a whisper, a gentle urging of strength. Could she confront her brothers before they plunged into the abyss of revenge? Could she be the voice of righteousness among the whirlwind of fury? Dinah rose, a fire ignited within her breast. "I will speak. I will stand for grace," she resolved, turning away from the well's edge toward the sound of her brothers' fiery discussions. At their encampment, the air was thick with tension. Simeon and Levi stood apart, their faces set with the grim determination of warriors preparing for battle. "We will not rest until justice is served," one of them declared, knuckles white from the tension. Dinah felt the weight of their words, a call to arms that would lead to destruction. Steeling herself, she approached. "Brothers," she called, with a voice steadied by the growing resolve, "should we not first seek understanding? Should we not wrestle with our hearts before the sword?" They turned, surprise mingling with disbelief at her presence. Yet in that moment she saw the glimmer of their humanity hidden beneath layers of rage. "What do you dare to speak of forgiveness, Dinah?" Levi asked, incredulity etched into his features. "I speak not just for the one who harmed me, but for us all. Vengeance will bind our hearts in grief, but grace can free us. We are the children of Jacob, bound by blood and covenant. Should we not seek to reflect the mercy our God extends to us?" Her voice trembled, but her heart beat strong with the conviction of the Almighty. The flame of her honesty cast a flicker of doubt upon the faces of her brothers. They exchanged glances, a silent conversation unfolding amid the chaos within their hearts. "What do you propose?" Simeon's voice softened, curiosity glittering in his eyes. That question hung in the air like a sacred challenge, and Dinah knew this was her moment. Let us find a way to address the wrong without bloodshed. Let us be the restoration our family needs. If I can be restored, so can he. Is there not a better way? In the shadows, the evening stretched on, and Dinah felt the struggle between fury and forgiveness. Would her brothers heed the call to love, or would the grim legacy of violence continue to enfold them? As the dawn awaited on the horizon, a deeper, grand narrative lingered just beyond their grasp, heralding a purpose intertwined with God's crimson thread of redemption. What would become of Dinah's plea, and how would her actions resonate through generations to come? The unfolding of their story hung delicately in the balance, beckoning them forward into the mystery of divine providence. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, bathing the earth in a golden glow, Dinah stood still, her heart racing as she awaited her brother's response. The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy with hope and fear, a fragile peace proffered on the altar of familial love. Simeon, the most stubborn of her brothers, narrowed his eyes, as if analyzing her very soul. "You would have us stand idly by while the wrongdoer lives unpunished? Have you forgotten the pain you've endured, sister?" His voice trembled with the intensity of his anger, yet within it simmered the slivers of uncertainty that Dinah had unearthed. Levi crossed his arms, wrestling with the conflict between his loyalty to his blood and the rainbow of emotions stirring within him. "What you speak is noble, Dinah," he said softly, "but will he value our forgiveness? Can we trust the heart of a man who harmed you so deeply?" Dinah met their gazes, her resolve hardening like iron forged in fire. Trust is not born of wrath, but of faith. Forgiveness does not seal our wounds, it opens them to healing. She paused, drawing in a breath as the morning breeze swept through the camp. "If we will not seek mercy, then what legacy shall we bequeath? Will our names be remembered with the scent of blood, or with the aroma of compassion?" The sun peeked fully over the hills, illuminating the somber faces of her brothers. Dinah felt the stirring of the Holy Spirit within her, a quiet confidence whispering that she was indeed placed in this moment for a purpose. She pressed on. "Shall we not be known as the children of the Most High? Does He not look upon us with grace and forgive our iniquities? What if we could exemplify that grace?" In the stillness, a silence enveloped the encampment, as if the world itself waited for their answer. The other brothers looked on, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and respect. The tension in the air thickened, filled now with the sweet fragrance of possibility. Finally, Simeon lowered his gaze, uncertainty lining his brow. "You speak words of great wisdom, Dinah, yet my heart cries for justice. Can we forgive and still hold accountable?" "Let us confront the wrongdoer," Levi suggested tentatively, "but let us also uncover his heart first. Perhaps he too has been touched by this darkness and may desire change." "You see," Dinah gained strength from their shifting thoughts, "let us not be led by vengeance, but by understanding. We may speak with him, hear his confession, and discern his heart's intent." As they deliberated, a collective spirit of hesitation washed over the men. Their fates were tied to this moment, and the dawning light symbolized not just the arrival of a new day, but of a new path for them. Slowly, Simeon nodded. "Very well. We will hear him out, but know that should there be no sign of genuine contrition, I shall not hesitate to act." With her brothers now tethered to the journey of reconciliation, Dinah felt a profound warmth settle over her, an affirmation of her faith that resonated deep in her heart. As they began preparations to confront the man who had wronged her, the dawn continued to rise, casting rays of divine promise over them. However, unbeknownst to Dinah and her brothers, their choices would usher in a swift wind of providence, for the outcome of their encounter harbored secrets that would shake the very foundation of their family. Would they embrace God's merciful calling, or would they descend into the pit of bitterness? Thus the curtain lifted on this act of their lives, where forgiveness met justice under the watchful eye of the Almighty, a divine weave guiding their every step towards His magnificent plan. For just as Dinah had asked, the path of grace stretched before them, leading deeper into the heart of God's redemption. What wonders and trials lay ahead? The answers echoed softly, beckoning them into the next chapter of their unfolding saga. As the sun rose high in the sky, its brilliance shone down upon Dinah and her brothers. They gathered their resolve, hearts beating in unison beneath the weight of the meeting scheduled for that very day. Levi scouted ahead, his brow furrowed in contemplation. What if he comes without remorse? What if his heart is still hardened? His voice trembled slightly as he pondered the potential for disappointment. Dinah, with the gentle strength of a woman who had endured much, said, "We are not accountable for his heart, only for our own. Shall we not offer him the chance to find the light through the very darkness he cast upon me?" The fervor of faith radiated from her. Her brothers found themselves swayed by her impassioned plea. They made their way toward the city of Shechem, the very place their family had long sought estrangement from due to past grievances. With each step, the landscape shifted around them, from the fields they knew to the cobbled streets of a city carpeted with memories of sin. Yet, as afternoon approached, something stirred within the harmony of Dinah's heart, a whisper imbued with divine promise. Upon reaching the gates, they found themselves surrounded by the murmurs of the populace, eyes drawn to the peculiar gathering. It appeared the sons of Jacob had come home not just to confront their family's inner turmoil, but also to navigate a breach broader than any one heart could hold. "Should we confront him now?" Simeon said, his voice barely above a murmur, echoing the tension of the moment. "What should be our approach?" "I believe," Dinah interjected, "that compassion must be our first step, even as justice remains our goal." The wind picked up, carrying her voice across the open square. At that moment, the figure of Shechem stepped forward, his face washed in emotion. He, too, bore scars of his actions. The brothers exchanged wary glances, and Dinah could feel their tension. "Should we confront him now?" Simeon said, his voice barely above a murmur, echoing the tension of the moment. "What should be our approach?" "I believe," Dinah interjected, "that compassion must be our first step, even as justice remains our goal." The wind picked up, carrying her voice across the open square. At that moment, the figure of Shechem stepped forward, his face washed in emotion. He, too, bore scars of his actions. The brothers exchanged wary glances, and Dinah could feel their tension. "It is I," said Shechem, his tone laden with regret. "I have come to ask for forgiveness, not only for my sake, but for yours as well." Dinah's heart swelled with conflicting emotions as she gazed into the eyes of the man who had brought her such pain. "You seek forgiveness, yet stand in the shadow of your actions. How can we trust your words?" Shechem sank to his knees, the weight of humility sweeping over him as tears streamed from his eyes. "I wronged you, and I cannot erase the past. Yet I feel the weight of my sin at my doorstep. I beg for a chance to explain, to seek atonement." Levi stepped forward, emboldened by Dinah's resolute spirit. "Atonement? What is it that you seek from us and from the Lord?" "I seek to restore what I have shattered. My heart, longing for repentance, would stoke a covenant of peace." His words fell heavy upon the men's shoulders. "We must hear him out, brothers," Dinah urged, "for it is within our grasp to begin anew or to falter into generations of enmity." As the penchant for restoration took form in the hearts of the men, they gathered around, forming a circle of divine deliberation. Simeon, still grappling with the throes of anger, wrestled with his decision. "Why should we grant mercy?" he asked, narrowing his eyes. Dinah sensed the storm within him, but also the glint of a brother fighting for righteousness. "Because even in our suffering, we are called to embody the very grace bestowed upon us," she lifted her chin, emboldened. "Forgiveness is not weakness, but the strength that defines the children of God." Then, enveloped by the swirling emotions, a moment of stillness approached, a holy pause. The crowd inhaled, aware that the future of their families was at a precipice. Would their choices echo into the future, crystallizing a legacy of grace? Or would they allow the darkness of bitterness to dismantle their lineage? For above them, the watchful eye of the Almighty lingered, unrevealed yet growing ever closer to manifesting his chosen destiny. In this profound moment, the sovereign reign of God began to unfurl, as the very seeds of reconciliation lay cradled in their midst, pregnant with the uncertainty of what was to come, their journey directed by the hands of providence. As the hour hung heavier, the divine spark of redemption awaited to ignite. What further trials called from beyond the horizon, and what hidden chapters lingered within God's unfolding embrace? As the murmurs of the crowd settled into an expectant hush, Dinah gazed upon Shechem, the man who held a part of her story, both painful and potential. The sun cast an aura over the square, illuminating faces marked by curiosity and concern. "Brothers," she began, her voice firm yet infused with compassion, "let us hear the plea of Shechem. It is a heavy burden he carries, and perhaps within his remorse lies a path forward for us all." Levi crossed his arms, still wrestling with the tempest of emotions that boiled beneath his skin. Can we trust his change? Can mercy truly exist where such depths of sin have been plumbed? Dinah nodded, her resolve unyielding. "Trust must be built from vulnerability, Levi. Consider this. If he is to seek a covenant of peace, we too must extend our hands, lest we dwell in the bitterness of our past." Simeon, clenched fists trembling with conflict, glanced at his sister. "You speak of mercy, yet what of justice?" His voice bore the weight of the familial decree, a line of anger sidestepping the revelation of grace. "The Lord is both just and merciful," Dinah responded gently, yet with the authority gleaned from her faith. "It is not for us to seek vengeance alone, but to allow God's purpose to unfold, for his plan often employs the unlikely." Across the square, Shechem raised his head, his expression stricken with a desperate hope. "I have come not just to ask for forgiveness, but to acknowledge the wrong I have done. The man I was has perished. The man who stands before you now is born from the ashes of my own iniquity." The crowd held its breath, the air thick with thrumming tension, as each heart weighed the gravity of his admission. Dinah's brothers, caught in the chasm between righteousness and restoration, stole glances at one another, their gazes betraying their torn souls. Dinah stepped forward, moving to the center. "Do we not serve a God who sees below the surface? A God who can turn ashes into beauty?" Her faith ignited within her, sparking a revelation that transcended the immediate strife. "With one act, we can embolden hope," she continued, her voice steady as the Spirit guided her. "Should we not endeavor to be the instruments of that hope? Only through understanding can we forge a future worth inheriting." The murmurs of doubt began to subside, replaced by an ember of understanding flickering within the hearts of her brothers. Shechem offered a prayer of sincerity, looking up, beseeching the heavens, as if the very throne of God awaited his words. "Let my actions reflect the true change in my heart. Grant me the chance to prove my transformation is real, a change wrought not by mere words, but by the will to amend and atone." As the weight of his words hung heavily in the air, Dinah felt the stirring of something greater, a response from the Almighty initiated by an act of humility and repentance. The eyes of the crowd shifted, their expressions morphing from suspicion to cautious hope. Suddenly, a voice pierced the stillness, echoing like a thunderous cloud in the distance. What if such reconciliation leads to unseen trials yet? The elders of Shechem, guardians of tradition and honor, approached, their wisdom steeped in generations of hard-earned lessons. "If mercy unfurls here," one elder spoke, "what shall the cost be for us and for the families who dwell hereafter? Will not the roots of our history entwine deeper in strife?" Dinah raised her arms, extending an invitation for dialogue. "Yes, trials may come, but do we not face them anyway? We stand at the hinge of history,
One pathway steeped in anger, another grace. In the realm of God's will, the future flourishes with divine possibility. Amid the pulsating tension, a flicker of understanding passed through the hearts of her brothers, a moment where compassion crossed the threshold of pain.
Hope merged with decision as they stood on sacred ground, awaiting the answer to their deliberation. And in that instant, above the earthly clamor, the heavens stirred, and a profound truth echoed, whispering through time. The seeds of restoration are sown in obedience, by trust, by faith, by the courage to embrace the unfathomable. At last, the air shifted palpably, as if the heavens themselves were beckoning the dawning of a new chapter, revealing the still concealed plan of the Almighty, awaiting the faithful to uncover the mysteries it held for them all. As the moment of decision loomed, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that kissed the faces of the assembled. The tension among them hung like the ripe fruit of a tree, waiting for the hand that would pluck it. Simeon, his fists slowly unclenching, turned to his brother Levi, his voice low but intense. "What shall we do? If we embrace this moment of mercy, it cannot be undone. We must weigh this not only for ourselves, but for our father Jacob, who has borne the burden of our lineage." Levi nodded, the fire of his inner conflict refusing to cool. Yet, what if redemption is the very essence of our covenant? Is it not written, "Seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God"? His eyes flickered towards Dinah, noticing the resolute light that danced within her. Shechem, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, seized the moment. "I ask not just for your forgiveness, but for your friendship. Let us forge a bond, a covenant that was once a stranger in this land. Imagine a future where our families are intertwined, not by the bonds of vengeance, but by an irrevocable peace." The elders of Shechem stood still, contemplating the weight of his words. One elder, his brow furrowed, stepped forward and directed his voice towards the assembly. "But can you assure us that you will uphold this promise? For the wounds of the past run deep, and the scars do not easily heal." Dinah, emboldened by the murmurs of encouragement rising from the crowd, raised her voice once more. "In a world that continuously demands retribution, let us be pioneers of hope. For God has placed us here together at this moment, and with His guidance we can break the chains of the past, creating a legacy of faith and unity." The crowd began to stir, the murmurs now transforming into a chorus of contemplation, voices lifting with question and wonder, hearts weighing the dichotomy of grief and grace. Faces once marked by hurt began to reflect a glimmer of hope as the potential for a renewed future took root. Levi's heart, still reluctant, opened just a fraction wider. If we seek to embrace this path, let us ask for a sign, a testament to this divine exchange. Let our ancestors bear witness, and let the Lord seal this covenant with a sign that will echo through the ages. A solemn silence enveloped the crowd, the air ripe with anticipation, as they turned their eyes toward the heavens. Dinah closed her eyes and began to pray, seeking wisdom and guidance. Her heart beat as if to the rhythm of the people around her, each pulse a prayer for understanding. Then suddenly a light shone bright as a flash of lightning cut through the dusky sky, illuminating the solemn faces. Gasps swept through the congregation. The rays refracted upon the gathered multitude, hinting at something divine unfolding above them. The elder stepped forward again, awe dawning upon him as he raised his hands to the sky. "Behold, then may this be the sign we seek, the heavens open to affirm our intentions." With renewed fervor, Dinah turned to her brothers. "Let us rise, not as those bound by past transgressions, but as a family reborn in the promise of healing and grace. For within us flows the legacy of Jacob. We are destined to forge a new destiny together." The assembly drew in a collective breath, hearts beating as one with an unseen rhythm. As she spoke, a stirring began to envelop the square, the earth beneath trembling lightly, as if acknowledging the covenant being forged. And it was then, through the celestial radiance that bathed them, the promise of God's greater plan shimmered just beyond the edge of understanding, whispering the eternal truth. "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Dinah, in that moment transcendent, felt the weight of heavenly purpose upon her, knowing that this chapter was only the beginning. Would they embrace this new legacy? Would the echoes of their choice resonate beyond their immediate world? She could feel that the answer lay just beyond the veil of this divine encounter, an unveiled mystery of the Almighty waiting to unfold in ways unforeseen. As the brilliance of divine light faded, a profound stillness enshrouded the gathering. The murmurs of hope, seasoned with trepidation, filled the air, each voice a prayer echoing the longing for reconciliation. Dinah, invigorated by the moment, stepped forward with unyielding faith. With eyes aflame like a candle flickering against the darkness, she spoke to Shechem and his people, her voice firm yet gentle. "Let us not be afraid of what lies ahead," she urged, "for in the Lord, the God of my father Jacob, there is strength for the weary and sight for the blind. We stand on the cusp of a new dawn, and together we shall shine forth like the morning sun breaking over the mountains." Simeon, emboldened by his sister's conviction, raised his voice among the gathered hosts. "If our hearts are to unite, then let us exemplify the truth of our covenant in deed and trust. We will require a sign of this day, a mark of our commitment to uphold this promise of peace, a ritual that belongs to our fathers." And so it was agreed amidst the assembly that the act of circumcision would symbolize this new covenant. The elders of Shechem, though hesitant, recognized the gravity of the moment, for it echoed within their own ancestral traditions. They too longed for peace, their desires interwoven with the hope of future generations. With solemnity, the men of Shechem then submitted themselves to the will of the assembly. The act was performed under the watchful gaze of the heavens, as Dinah stood nearby, praying for the healing of hearts and the unification of families. She trembled, not with fear, but with the exhilarating weight of her newfound hope, for she envisioned a legacy that could be built on forgiveness. As the hours passed, the light of the stars arose, igniting the night with heavenly brilliance. Dinah's brothers voiced ancient prayers that they had heard as children, invoking the names of their fathers and the God who had led them thus far. It was a moment infused with promise, yet shadows lingered, for they all sensed a stirring in the air that foreshadowed greater tribulations. On the third day after the covenant was sealed, a troubling silence fell over the city of Shechem. The men who had bound themselves to this promise lay recovering, vulnerable in their newfound state. Word reached the ears of Levi and Simeon that their father Jacob had learned of the agreement. He too prayed, wrestling with God for wisdom, feeling within his heart an uneasy stirring that echoed the unfolding drama. What if this peace was only a front? What if our enemies seek to betray the newfound hope? He pondered, filled with the deep ache of a father's heart. He was called to trust in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, yet within him brewed the knowledge that the world was fraught with treachery. In the early morning light, as shadows danced across the ground, the unthinkable transpired. Levi and Simeon were confronted by a messenger who spoke of a dark plot emerging from the depths of malice, a conspiracy brewing against them.
Shechem has stirred his men in the night, seeking vengeance for the embarrassment of their kin, the man uttered breathlessly, articulating the threat that hung like a blade over their heads. Dinah's heart raced as she heard, a swell of dread rising in her throat. What shall we do then? Do we abandon the path we have chosen? Is peace as fragile as morning dew? But Levi grasped her hand firmly. No, we must stand firm. God is with us, and we shall not relent in our pursuit of justice tempered with mercy. For it is in the trials we face that our commitment shall shine forth. The assembly gathered once more, hearts palpably beating as they looked to Dinah and her brothers for direction. It was a moment laden with destiny, for the pages of their story would turn into an epic told for generations. Would they rise in faith, seeking the will of the Almighty amidst the brewing storm?
And as the gathering stood poised at the precipice of conflict and covenant, a whisper beckoned from the divine, "For I am the Lord your God, and I will fight for you. Trust in me. The depths of my plans stretch into eternity. The time draws near, not just for a decision, but for the unfolding of my purpose among them." The assembly, burdened with the weight of destiny, found itself gathered in fervent prayer. Dinah, her heart alight with resolve, raised her voice unto the Lord. "O God of my fathers, hear our cries. In this moment grant us clarity and courage. For we, your people, seeking peace, stand upon the threshold of strife. Let your will be done, and let your name be glorified among us." Amidst the thrumming tension, Levi stepped into the circle, his countenance fierce and unwavering. "Brothers and sisters, do we not remember our covenant with the Most High? The God who parted the sea and led our ancestors through wilderness trails. He is our shield and our fortress. We must not yield to despair or hesitation. The taunts of Shechem's men does not ensnare us, for our strength lies in the unity of our hearts and the truth of our God." Simeon echoed Levi's fervor. "Let us rally forth, not as individuals, but as a united force. We will confront this threat bravely, knowing that God's hand guides us. We carry not just swords, but the legacy of our faith. The promise established between us and Shechem is indeed sacred, but the sanctity of our lives and the defense of our father's honor hold greater weight." As the brothers spoke, Dinah sensed the gathering storm in the hearts of all present. Mothers shielded their children, while men readied themselves for the confrontation ahead. "Should we not counsel seekers of peace and resolve before commencing violence?" Dinah interjected, her spirit aflame with righteous indignation. "We are the bearers of truth. Mercy must lead our actions, even against those who would raise their swords against us." Yet before the assembly could reach a consensus, the cry of a watchman pierced through the cracks of the gathering. "Behold, the men of Shechem approach. They come led by their chief, seeking to avenge their wounded pride." A deep hush fell over the crowd as the inhabitants of Shechem assembled at the borders of the encampment. Their countenance reflected the fierceness of wounded animals, emboldened by shame, their hearts breeding vengeance. Dinah locked eyes with their leader, the same Shechem who had sought her heart but had left her desolate. The past echoed in her heart, and she braced for the tumult that would ensue. Levi and Simeon took their places at the forefront, swords drawn, yet they turned to Dinah, seeking her final counsel. "What say you, sister? Shall we meet them in battle or seek another path?" Dinah, drawing strength from memories past and the stirring of divinity in her soul, proclaimed, "Let us speak. Call for peace, and if they refuse, let them face the might of our resolve." For even in confrontation, it is mercy we desire, and justice we will uphold. And so, with a clarion call, she stepped forward. Her hands raised, palms open, as if to cradle both the anger and the grief of the gathering. "O men of Shechem, we seek not to destroy, but to heal. We come not in rage, but with an open heart. If this covenant holds meaning, if you are ready to walk in the ways of our God, join us in reconciliation." The men of Shechem circled, their eyes boiling with pride and anger. Yet, amidst the shadows, some hesitated. "There is a chance to rebuild," echoed one among them. Yet the weight of vengeance loomed heavily. As the tension twisted and turned, a dark hand was raised, seeking the first strike. With breath held in suspense, the assembly stood on the precipice of calamity, their fates intertwined. But just then, a blinding light flickered above them, illuminating the earth beneath. Voices from the heavens echoed into the human understanding, proclaiming, "The time has come. For this moment is but a shadow of what is to come. As I guided your ancestors through fire and flood, so shall I guide you through this treachery. Fear not, for I am with you, and my plan shall unfold restlessly through every trial." And in an instant, the air pulsated with divine assurance, promising breakthrough and revealing salvation beyond the present conflict. Unbeknownst to them, God's more significant tapestry was being woven, a story that would stretch far beyond the horizon, intertwining their lives with redemptive grace. Would they heed his call, embracing not only the clash of swords, but the revival of hope? For the stories of the faithful may yet echo through eternity, revealing wonders yet untold. As the brilliance of divine light enveloped the encampment, silence held the air, gripping the hearts of all present. The men of Shechem, once fervent with anger, paused, their weapons trembling in uncertainty. Levi, sword raised, but now hesitating, gazed with wide eyes at the heavenly display. Dinah, equally entranced, felt the presence of God weaving through the chaos, as if his very essence stitched together the fabric of their destinies. In that moment of divine intervention, Shechem, the chief of the attackers, stepped forward. His expression shifted from one of malice to awe. "What is this? Are we chosen for a different path? Do we hear the voice of the Almighty?" Dinah's voice rang out once more, unwavering yet emboldened. "O Shechem, son of Hamor, surely our God has graced us with his message of hope. Can we not seek peace instead of strife? Cast aside your weapons and let us reason together as he commands." As the watchful crowd held its breath, movements rippled among the Shechemites. Some lowered their swords, while others remained entrenched in their pride, hearts battling against the soft whispers of God's call. Simeon, emboldened by Dinah's faith, stepped next to his sister. "Consider the mercy we offer, not as weakness, but strength. If we turn from vengeance, we may invoke the favor of the Lord, and who knows what might be revealed among our people." A murmur arose from within the ranks of Shechem, split between the whims of righteousness and the drive for retribution. Dinah drew upon her strength again, realizing that perhaps her own journey could forge a bridge where hatred sought to divide. "Hear me, brothers of Shechem. If we are to unite and not fight, let us make sacrifice unto the Lord. Let this covenant be sealed not with bloodshed, but with an offering of reconciliation." The leaders of Shechem fell into a moment of reflection. Was their pursuit truly worth the loss of life? Could a path of restoration be conceived instead of one paved by bitterness? The flames of vengeance flickered, wavering like shadows before the light. Suddenly, from the rear of the assembly, one of the young men spoke. "I know a path. Let us approach Jacob, our kin, for he is known as Israel, the prince who wrestled with God. If we lay our grievances at his feet, perhaps he shall intercede for us before the Most High." Hearing this, there rippled a wave of recognition among the leaders as they pondered the scars left by their forebears. A tale of hope, woven closely to the very covenant they had abandoned, softened their hearts. In this sacred hour, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, God's revelation began to rise. Let us seek our father Jacob. If he bends his ear to our plight, can we not find favor in his sight? The suggestion breathed life into hesitation, turning it into action. With hearts hesitant yet yearning, the men of Shechem lowered their swords. Levi and Dinah turned to one another, vitality filling their spirits as mutual understanding radiated in their shared gazes. The will of God was being unfurled lovingly in their midst. Yet, as they began to seek Jacob, the heavens stirred anew. A voice more profound than the last called forth like thunder. For this moment is but the beginning. Look not just to your present, but prepare your hearts, for there are deeper mysteries yet to unfold. The true deliverance of nations beckons. Shall you partake in the divine revelations I have set before you? The assembly stood on the precipice of grace, the path ahead drenched with possibilities. Their eyes turned, searching the horizon for understanding. What awaited them could change not just the fate of their families, but the very lineage of humanity. Indeed, as light embraced the shadow, so too did the promise of God's meticulous orchestration call them forth into a destiny fraught with greatness and divine purpose. As evening descended upon the camp, the air was thick with apprehension and anticipation. Dinah stood at the crossroads of her life, the eyes of all upon her. She felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her shoulders. With hearts poised in renewed hope, the gathered multitude awaited the arrival of Jacob, the revered patriarch who bore the mantle of their family's legacy.
"Fear not," she spoke, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "This is our moment, not to dwell in the shadow of vengeance, but to step boldly into the light of reconciliation." The youthful fire in her heart was now tempered by a yearning for healing, a healing that only God could orchestrate. In the distance, a figure emerged, a silhouette against the dusky sky, the gold and silver threads of twilight weaving a tapestry upon his brow. Jacob, her father, had come, his presence commanding yet gentle. As he approached, murmurings rippled through the assembly. The face of the one who wrestled with God reflected both wisdom and weariness, a man whose life echoed the struggles and victories of a faithful journey. "Dinah," he called softly, his voice laced with paternal love, "what chaos rests upon your heart?" He moved closer, and she could see the concern etched upon his aged features. "Father," she replied, her words flowing like the waters of a stream long dammed, "I have ventured into the realm of pain, yet I stand here today to forge peace. The men of Shechem have sought to right their wrongs, and if you would listen, we may all walk in the covenant of grace." Jacob's eyes widened in surprise, a myriad of emotions flickering like candlelight in the twilight. "My daughter, is it true? Do they seek peace rather than vengeance?" He surveyed the assembly before him, young and old, filled with uncertainty, their hearts open yet wavering. Then, from among the Shechemites, Shechem himself took a step forward. "O Jacob, son of Isaac, I confess my trespass against your daughter and request to lay our grievances at your feet. Let your wisdom guide us towards restoration, for I envision a future where our families are entwined in harmony." A silence enveloped the square as all eyes turned toward Jacob. The patriarch, his heart swelling with the burdens of generations, contemplated the depth of their plea. He had wrestled many battles over the years, both within and without, yet nothing stirred his spirit more than the yearning for unity amidst division. "Then let it be so," Jacob responded, the sound of his voice bringing relief like the first drops of rain upon parched ground. Let us gather, not as enemies shattered by bloodshed, but as kin seeking the balm of forgiveness. For the Lord our God delights in those who pursue peace. With his words sealing the moment, the tension in the air began to dissipate like the morning mist, revealing the brilliance of a renewed dawn. The men of Shechem stepped forward, hearts pulsating with a blend of vulnerability and hope. The elders among them nodded, moved by a tide of sincerity. May our covenant be established here, among these stones. Let this place stand as a testament to the power of grace and mercy. And so, together they built an altar, a humble construction of stone and earth, each gathering their strength to lay down a piece of their history, enshrining their covenant within these walls.
Dinah knelt with them, her heart blossoming as the frail threads of their past began weaving a beautiful narrative, rich with the colors of forgiveness and understanding. As the fire of sacrifice ignited, a flickering light enveloped the gathering, casting long shadows across the faces of family and foes turned allies. The scent of burnt offerings ascended like prayers to heaven, a fragrant testimony of a decision made in faith. The night echoed with solemn oaths and promises exchanged, each member vowing to strive towards a legacy defined not by sorrow but by unity, the very heart of God's hope for his people. Jacob, moved by the transformations he witnessed, lifted his hands in benediction. This covenant shall echo throughout our lineage. The Lord himself shall honor this union forged in humility. And may our descendants carry forth this spirit of forgiveness, reflecting the mercy ascribed to our God. Dinah felt a swell of joy rise within her, a joy that flooded her weary bones and renewed her spirit with purpose. She stood tall, no longer bound by the shadows of her past, but infused with a vision of divine possibility. The legacy of Jacob would continue, not as a tale marred by conflict, but as a beacon shining across generations, heralding the brilliance of reconciliation. In that moment, soaring above the gathering, the stars in the night sky seemed to align, their brightness reaffirming the covenant sealed upon that ground. An eternal reminder that even in the face of great darkness, light and love can triumph. And Dinah, once a symbol of pain, now bore witness to a new dawn, a dawn where her story intertwined with countless others, igniting hearts to pursue peace wherever they walked. Thus, as the earth cooled and night deepened, they sang songs of praise to the God of mercy, a reverberation destined to resound through time, carrying the sacred promise of restoration. Let this moment be a call for all who wish to embrace the light amidst the darkness, to rise above the fray and forge a legacy rooted in grace. For the story does not end with Dinah. It continues in every heart that dares to believe in the transformative truth of reconciliation. If you have been touched by this powerful narrative of faith and redemption, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, and comment your reflections on how this incredible story has impacted your faith journey. Don't wait even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's message of hope and transformation. Together, let's sow seeds of faith, nurturing a harvest of grace for generations to come.